Hello, I'm Lowell Martin, and this is MCC Today. Stay tuned. On today's show, we have Dr. Samantha Lay, Debra Herring, and Whitney Stevens. You're going to learn a lot. Stay tuned.
We're turning the tables, rewriting the rules, letting the world know that success is not reserved for the privileged few. Every dreamer, every believer, every fighter has a chance to rise above. Together, we will find your path and change your future. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, at Meridian Community College, you are worth it. Now is your time. Find your wings.
And we are here with the wonderful Dr. Samantha Lay. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It is taking, let's see, how long for me to get you to come back on the show?
Well,
have you ever been on the
well,
show?
there was COVID.
COVID help?
Yeah, my grandmother calls it the COVID.
The
so
COVID,
that's sort of,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
The COVID. Yeah,
so the COVID is what prevented you?
Maybe, yeah. Or I think I did one with a mask, so yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
I guess
well,
you
you're
had
back.
Better, yeah, you had better guests than me, I guess. You didn't ask me back.
Well, okay. Now you teach English here,
Yes.
okay, and do you teach the developmental?
I did.
You did.
But I also teach Enhance, which is sort of a combo of developmental and Comp 1.
Okay, it's like when you finish the enhanced, you can get credit for Comp 1
Yes.
if you do everything that you're.
Yes, we do
that
the
you're
same
supposed to do.
thing in Comp 1, but we have added lab for
Okay.
extra grammar and writing help. So it's
Okay.
a 4-hour class.
But you also are one of our big writers. I mean, writing as far as getting the students to write, and you
Yes.
are very good and very detailed in exactly what you want. That's why I love when I'm helping someone who's in our class. It's like you know exactly what you want.
Right.
Do you teach any literature at the moment?
I do. I teach World Literature 1, and then next semester World Literature 2.
I love teaching world literature. Oh, it's so much fun.
It's hard to prep the class though, because you have to pick everything great that was written in the world
I
since
know.
the beginning of time.
I
so
know.
that's
I know, and this you could cry with the stuff you have to leave off.
I know.
But I wanted to have you on the show today to talk about the importance of learning good grammar and punctuation, and the importance of learning to write well. Why do students need to know that?
It's a.
I mean, and we get this all the time.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah,
you
yeah,
get this all the
yeah.
time from students going, why?
Right, my content was good, but I missed all these points on grammar. But if my content was good, then shouldn't my paper grade be good? Unfortunately, well, for one thing, grammar and writing, or good grammar and punctuation, is about communication and clearly communicating. If you have a paper, the ideas could be great, but if there are no commas or commas are on the wrong spots, words are misspelled, wrong words, then your message is no longer conveyed properly.
It is
and
not.
so you lose that. And you could have great ideas, but if you speak with incorrect grammar, unfortunately, there are going to be people who are going to judge you for that.
Right.
And they won't take you seriously. They'll think you're uneducated, even if you're quite smart, but you just speak informally. So yeah, grammar is really a key to clear communication.
Do you think it is emphasized as much as it should be in some of the lower levels of education?
I think in some way it's over, or parts of it that aren't important are overemphasized, like diagramming a sentence. You don't have to be able to do that to write well.
But if you know how to diagram a sentence, you for sure know what everything is
Yes,
and where
you know
it
what
goes.
everything is.
Yeah.
To write a sentence, to speak, we don't have to know really what any of the parts of speech are. Or
Right.
purposes. I mean, so a focus on that. You're never asked, well, how many nouns were in the sentence that you
Right.
just, it doesn't, I think reading a lot helps you become a better writer more than
Definitely.
learning the parts of speech.
Right.
Sorry for
I
anybody
remember when I first started, I wasn't really good on the parts of speech and all that, but I could always write well, and I knew how to fix it.
Right. Right.
And I think those are the things that are the skills that are important.
Yes.
If you're not going into the subject,
Right.
know how to write,
Right.
and know how to fix the
Right.
problems that
Right.
arise.
Right. I care less that you know what kind of fragment it is or what kind of comma error it is than you know how to fix it. That's the more important issue.
So it's when you go in for a job interview, when you're writing anything, whether it be something on a patient's chart
Right.
or something like that, if the importance of good English
Yes.
can't be overemphasized.
Well, because when people find out that you teach writing, they always tell you their writing experiences and whatever job you have. Everything from a housing inspector to nurses to police officers and sheriff deputies, they write police reports, they write health reports, and those have to be communicated clearly because they might end up in a trial. They might end up in a court case, and so it has to be communicated well. And so we, no matter our profession, we're going to read and write in some capacity for the rest of our lives, and we have to be able to do that well.
Is there anything that you were taught or a way that you were taught and you're like, okay, now that I'm a teacher, I'm not going to do that. That was a waste of my time.
Diagramming sentences.
Okay, well, I kind of got that earlier.
that
Okay.
knowing like what kind of, pointing out the parts. Let's read another short story instead. Let's read.
I sometimes, as an instructor, there are things that you have students do, and I'm wondering, okay, why am I having them do this? Okay, is it just because I had to do it?
Right.
Or is this actually beneficial?
Right.
Do you ever ask yourself that question?
Yes. What's the purpose of this beyond doing it for this class to get the grade to go on? Like, I want the writing to be applicable and them to be able to take it out because they're going to value it more too. If they're like, okay, there's another box I have to tick just so I can do well in this class, it'll be like in and out once that assignment is turned in. I want them to keep this with them and use it every time that they write and the way that they think and organize. So organizing, learning how to organize and structure their paragraphs, learning the elements that are in an introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Once they learn that formula, for lack of a better word, they're good for any writing they do for the rest of their lives.
They're also good in speech.
Yeah,
because
anything.
speech is just an oral essay,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's usually set up almost exactly the same way.
Yep.
What about literature classes? Why? And don't get me wrong, you know how much I love
I
all of
know.
this.
Yeah.
And we could talk for days because, but why is it important for students to at least experience some of the literature?
Literature is life in a different form. It talks about life in a different form. If you enjoy movies, if you enjoy television shows, if you enjoy music, you're enjoying poetry, you're enjoying short stories and television shows, you're enjoying novels and movies. And that's what these are. So if you enjoy horror, you might think you don't like to read, right? But if you enjoy horror movies, read horror novels. If you enjoy Western movies, read Western novel. I mean, it's romance, right? You read the same genre you like to watch, but also it helps you identify with whatever you're going through. If you've lost somebody recently, you read a novel about loss. While it might make you cry, you connect. Something that was written 500 years ago. It's like, this is same. We have the same emotions, the same experiences. And writing, especially modern writing, modern within each period, talks about the social issues of the time. So it can help push forward issues of race, issues of gender, issues of injustice, issues of prejudice, to help us see and recognize those issues in our own world and how we can help address those. Because writing, movies, music, all of that are ways to talk about what's going on and make us aware of our world and of ourselves.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for being on the show. It always goes by so fast.
I know.
But now we don't have masks.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
MCC costs less and gives you more. Are you ready to jumpstart your career but don't have the time for a traditional 4-year degree? Meridian Community College can have you workforce ready in as little as 1 semester. We have workforce programs ranging from 1 semester to 2 years with experienced instructors and hands-on training that will help you gain the skills you need to succeed and start earning a paycheck sooner. Find your wings at Meridian Community College.
And we're here with the wonderful Miss Debra Herring. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. We had, I'm just telling everybody, we had a major gripe session beforehand, but we're good now.
Yes.
And
Need
the
to
gripe wasn't
vent.
about us, it was just venting about stuff.
Life in general.
About life in general. Now, you are the program coordinator for the Radiologic Technology Program.
Yes, sir. I have been since 2010.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I've been with MCC since 2005. So.
Yes, yes. And we almost immediately bonded, I think, because, you know, I mean, it's like every time we see each other, and I don't get to see you a lot, but every time we see each other, it's like we have a greght time.
Yeah, because I'm in the dungeon of the health building. X-ray has to be on the bottom floor. So.
It has to be down there.
Yes.
It has to be. But now, I wanted to talk to you about your program, just in general. First off, with what kind of prereqs do students have to be able to get into that program?
Awesome question. In order to apply for
Okay.
admission, they have to have Anatomy and Physiology 1 with a lab
Okay.
with a grade of C or better,
Okay.
and college algebra. Those two courses, along with an 18 composite score on their ACT,
Okay.
makes them eligible to apply.
Okay.
Now, it's a
But
very competitive.
I was about to say, a C in those classes, it really would be better if you had a higher grade
Yes.
in A&P and college algebra.
Absolutely.
That makes you more competitive.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
We're points-based. It's a blind admissions process. We
Okay.
take 15 students each fall.
Okay.
The
Not in the
applica-
spring.
The application deadline is June 1.
Okay.
So from June 1, then we'll go through the summer and do an interview, an information session. Both of those are mandatory. So if you apply, you're qualified, you get a letter to come to an information session, then you need to schedule that.
Okay.
Because if it's not scheduled, you don't show up, then you're off the list. There has to be some criteria, and reading and following instructions is a pretty good one.
It's pretty good. Well, okay. So if you're applying for it, do you have to do, when you're working with the application and everything like that, do you have to do any kind of shadow, or does the student have to do any kind of shadowing?
No,
Kind
most
see
of our
if-
students come from high school programs where they have the HOSA
Okay.
organization, and they have already done the shadowing. And that's one of the reasons that we do the information session, to tell them about the job responsibilities and what is required of them. One of the saddest things is for someone to take a seat. We only take 15, and we have up to 50 applicants for each admissions process. If they accept a seat and then halfway through first semester decide this is not for them. Again, we don't know what we want to do until we try it. So
Sure,
we want
sure.
everyone to make an attempt, but there's a seat that someone
Could
who
have-
had the heart for it. Again, so we do the information session and try really to encourage those who want to be here to stay. But if you're not sure, this program is really challenging. So if your heart's not in it, it's not going to be a successful endeavor.
Okay. Now this is a 2-year program.
It is
and at
5
the end-
semesters.
and at the end of it, they get an AAS degree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, while they're in the program, will they also have to take other college classes like Comp 1 or anything like that?
There are 15 hours of general education courses embedded in the
Okay.
AAS curriculum for radiology.
Okay.
Now, Anatomy and Physiology 1 with lab and college algebra will have gone away because those were prerequisites.
Right.
Typically, if you're going to take those two courses, you will have already had Comp 1.
Right.
Maybe medical vocabulary, but you're going to have a speech and a fine art. So there are 15 hours that you'll have to have overall. Most students have those completed by the time they apply to us because they graduate high school in May.
Right.
They enroll in college in the fall, and there they can get Anatomy and Physiology 1 and college algebra to be eligible for the spring application. And so they've got a year of college out of the way.
Okay.
So basically their X-ray by itself is full-time by Pell Grant standards, not by the 15, 30, 45. So that 15 credit hour tuition break.
Just in general, though, is it, because I know it is a very diligent program, and you have, you are, I'm not going to say difficult, but you have to make sure
People
you
say I'm
study.
difficult all the time.
Well, yes, I've said that behind your back. No, I'm joking. Because sometimes I will tell students, I'm like, look, anything you can get out of the way and go ahead and get done, please do so, because you will appreciate that later on when you're
Absolutely.
super studying all the other stuff.
Absolutely, because X-ray, like medical vocabulary, it's not something that we've had every day of our lives,
Right.
like math,
Right.
English, history. We've
Right.
been subjected to that all through school for our 12 years, got tongue tangled. But X-ray is new, so it takes a little adjusting, and it is academically intense. We cover a lot of material in a short period of time. We're only actually in class as a freshman 3 days a week, because the other 2 days a week you're in clinic applying what you've learned in the classroom.
Right.
So it's
lots of hands-on.
It's very rapid progression. It is very hands-on.
Now, once they finish the program, what kind of job openings are there for them out there? What kind of jobs are available?
Anywhere you want to go. They're begging for X-ray techs at the moment. I was just looking on Facebook last night. Place in Hattiesburg is offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus plus relocation expenses if you have to move.
Wow.
And
okay.
again,
So the money's pretty good.
competitive pay. So in Hattiesburg, that's typically $19 to $22 an hour, somewhere in that range, depending on where you're working. Hospitals, of course, are going to pay more because you're responsible for more procedures than a clinic where you're doing standalone radiography and basically 9 to 5.
Okay. Well, now, when you complete the program, the 5 semesters, there's a national board you take?
Yes, there is.
And then once you take that and pass that, you can go anywhere.
You can. You have a national registry. Each state has its own criteria for their state licensure. For Mississippi, for example, once you pass your national registry, you simply apply to the state and prove that you have passed your national registry, pay a small fee, and you're registered within the state.
Okay.
Next door in Alabama, there is no state licensure requirement, so you don't have to do anything. But every state is different.
Okay, but that national board really does
It
look
opens
good
the
in
door.
Okay. Now, can you continue your education if you want to?
Absolutely. Most of our students historically have taken the path through ultrasound. So they'll start with X-ray and then apply to an X-ray program, and then that's another year of school and then clinical practice as well, and another registry. So every modality has its own registry. So we've got ultrasound, computed tomography, magnetic resonance imaging, nuclear medicine, mammography, and then if you wanted to get into the therapeutic aspect, then we have the radiation therapist working at the Cancer Center.
If someone might be interested in your program, who should they contact for more information?
Our health advisor, and at the moment I'm at a loss as to her name, but you can contact myself, Debra Herring, or the clinical coordinator, Ms. Jerry Lynn Spears.
Okay, and you can also go through
meridiancc.edu/radtech, and you'll be on our webpage.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Thank you to the teachers for encouraging me when I wasn't sure where to start, for seeing my potential even when I didn't, for inspiring me to reach farther and try harder.
Thank you, MCC. You helped me change my future.
Find your wings at MCC.
And we're here with the wonderful Miss Whitney Stevens. Wait, is that what you said?
Yes.
everything we had talked about just went out of my head.
Yeah.
Now, you are the grand guru of all things financial aid here at Meridian Community College.
I'm not sure if that's the best way to describe it, but sure, we'll take it today.
I am always so just not fascinated, but that is part of it, because there is typically a minefield
Yes.
that you have to maneuver
That you have to
around
maneuver.
where money is concerned,
It
because students and their parents can kind of get upset with you
Yes.
because they're expecting something that's not going to happen.
Right.
And you have to, in a very polite way,
You do.
and I've always seen her, she's polite but firm.
Well, thank you.
And you're like, this is not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen.
Because you always want people to know. You want
Right.
to empower them with the information. And a lot of times, it's, of course, a lot of steps above me and a lot of decision makers, ahead of us. But when we're here and when we're in the offices with the students and the families, we just want them to know. And it's hard to navigate sometimes, because you're human and you understand as well.
Right.
I have to tell you no, or explain explain why we have to do additional paperwork and things. And sometimes it does get tough and it gets hard. So that's why it's always so important to me, like you said, be polite, but be firm, just so that everyone will know what their situation is going forward, so that they can make the best decisions for themselves and for their families, because we know that it's a lot sometimes. It can be a lot.
And the thing is, and this is what people need to remember, it's not you
right
saying no to the,
right.
you know, this is, you haven't met the criteria
exactly.
that, you know, so we can't give you this money because number one, you haven't done what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of it too.
Right,
it's like, you got to hold up your end here.
Yes, because there are always application processes. I mean, if you're applying for something on the federal level, of course, there's the FAFSA. If you're applying for something on the state level, if you're a Mississippi resident, that's the state aid application. And even here at MCC for our institutional scholarships, there's an application process. So yes, while you may have a certain ACT score, GPA, you've been very active in things like that, we still have applications in place just so we can know, you know, meet all of your things, have that on paper, have that record, so that we can find those resources for you.
Well, now we just opened up spring registration so that people are able to register for holiday classes and spring classes. So will they still be able to use their federal money or federal money Pell Grants for that?
Yes, so as long as they stay off of financial aid suspension, as long as they don't progress the suspension at the end of each semester, we process grades, you know, we look at those records, and then we run status updates.
Okay.
So as long as they don't progress to financial aid suspension and they were eligible for something in the fall, then they should kind of still meet their eligibility for the spring. Every now and then there'll be a case where a student has reached the end of their lifetime Pell eligibility usage, and so they may not have that Pell for the spring, but that's very rare, and most students already know ahead of time that they're reaching that eligibility. If a student ever has question on that amount or on that eligibility amount, they can always look at their dashboard on studentaid.gov, and that lets them know once they're progressing toward that 600%. So all of that information is out there just in case we're not available, or just in case a student may not be too sure. As long as you have the FSAID login and password, and they can go straight to studentaid.gov and find all of that right there when they log in.
Okay, now if a student did not go to classes or go to school in the fall and they've decided to start in the spring, can they still get a Pell Grant?
Yes, they can still apply. They just need to be sure they fill out that 2324 FAFSA. The earlier they can do it, the better, so that we can go ahead and receive that in before we go home for Christmas break, so we can get everything processed. If there's any additional documents, we can be working on all of that right now, so that way when classes start in January, or if they take the holiday term in December, they'll be ready to go.
Well, now, are they able to use Pell Grant for summer classes?
Yes.
Okay.
So the eligibility requirements for that, if they were full-time in both fall and spring at any institution, then they have to take at least 6 hours for the summer. But yes, they can use Pell Grant toward summer classes as well.
Now, is it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, they get a certain amount of Pell Grant for the year, right?
Yes.
So you can divide it, kind of divide it out as you need it.
Right. So what it is that if you apply for it and you're eligible for it, you get 100% for the year. Okay. And so if you're full-time in the fall, you get the first 50% in the fall, and then if you're full-time in the spring, you'll get the second 50%. Okay. Pell Grant is prorated based on enrollment status, so a student may only want to do 6 hours. If they meet those eligibility for it, then they can get part of that Pell for each term. So a student does not have to be full-time every semester to get Pell Grant. So it can be adjusted and prorated, and those are based off of your EFC. So it's some things we have to look at, but like I said, because sometimes life just doesn't allow you to be full-time. You know, sometimes you may only need 1 or 2 more classes when you're waiting on that eligibility for the program, like, you know, the previous guest was talking about. So sometimes you may not need the 12 hours. So if you need only 1 or 2 classes, we can take a look at that, and most students, if they're Pell eligible, they will be eligible to be adjusted down based on that enrollment status.
Can you use Pell Grants for like dorms?
So how it works is it'll pay towards your tuition and fees first, and then yes, if you have some eligibility on that Pell amount left, it will go toward room and board.
Okay.
Sure will.
Can you use that for other things that are school related?
Yes, you can use it for other things that are school related. If you have a credit, if you need to make purchases in the bookstore for books, binders, supplies, all of those lovely things that that department has to offer, you can use that toward that as well.
What if you owe money to a school, or like you left and there's like a little bit of extra that you owe, and you're wanting to come in again, and you are eligible for Pell, but will Pell Grant pay that? Does that make sense? And what I'm asking makes sense?
It does. What you're asking makes sense. So the school will not be able to automatically take it out of that new term to pay that past term balance.
Okay.
So what you'll need to do is speak with the business office at that prospective school just to kind of see what can be done.
Okay.
But the school cannot automatically take it out, and most of the time, most cases, you have to have that old balance paid out prior to being able to register for the new term. But I always tell students, please call, speak with someone just to see what all of your options are, because we don't want you to make any assumptions. We'll let you know what's feasible and what's not, but definitely reach out to the business office just to get that balance squared away and see, what those options are, because there are private loans and things like that will pay for past due balances for students. Some companies will allow that so that student can come on back and return to school for that new semester.
Well, if a student would like to, has questions or would like to get in touch with y'all, how do they go about doing it?
So they can give us a call at 601-484-8898, or they can email us at finaid, FINAID, @meridiancc.edu.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Not essential. Never let anyone tell you that again. Never doubt your abilities to make a difference. How do I know this about you? Because I'm a teacher. I am the one who will push you harder and farther than you could have ever imagined. Teach you things that you never thought possible. And if you will give me 100%, then I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and together we will change your future. MCC, find your wings.
On behalf of Media Mogul Josh Taylor, executive producers Matt Milner and Tanisha Clark, and student producer Aaron Stewart, thank you for watching. Hope you learned a little bit, and we'll see you next week.